Sorry, Viraj, I got disconnected. Yeah, so you have to basically, like I was saying, there's just one major process that that sewage pollution causes. So you have to explain that entire process, how that actually happens. If you want, you can just like write out your answer and read it out to me verbally, or you can type it out on the chat, whatever you prefer.
Wait, is a eutrophication?
Yes, it's eutrophication. So you have to explain the entire process, how it happens.
Oh, okay. So like,
Yeah.
so like, eutrophication is like. So do I like have to like tell what eutrophication is?
Yes, if you remember, I taught you the entire process that the fertilizers or that they enter into the water, and then that causes the algae to reproduce, and then the bacteria, and then the oxygen gets used up, and then the fish die, like entire process that I had explained. So you have to explain that entire process. That the fertilizers will come, the algae grows, the sunlight doesn't come into the water, the number of bacteria increase, that entire thing that we had discussed. Eventually the oxygen gets used up and the organisms all die. That is eutrophication. So you have to explain that entire process basically.
So like when the sewage has excessive amounts of nutrients, right? Like
Yes, it has. Yes,
like uh,
basically.
like particularly like nitrogen and phosphorus, like
Yes, it
nitrates and
does. Because
phosphate
a lot
fertilizer.
of your when you yes, exactly. You're absolutely right. It has a lot of nitrogen and phosphorus components.
Yeah,
So the
that's correct.
nitrogen and phosphorus basically makes the algae glue. If you remember, I
So
had
that
given
that is eutrophication, right? That when the sewage has lots of excess amounts of nutrients, except for
yes,
particularly nitrogen and
yes,
phosphorus,
yes,
this is
yes.
eutrophication, right?
Uh, no, you okay. So when uh there is going to be okay, so think about it. If there's too much nitrogen and phosphorus, and when it enters the water, what will happen in the water? When that excessive amount of nitrogen and phosphorus will
Or
enter the
algae is
water.
gonna like form a
Yes.
lot of algae
Algae,
is gonna
yes,
form.
exactly. Now, why is the algae forming bad? What happens when there's too much algae?
Okay, wait.
Yeah. So if there's too much algae, then when the algae will die, there will be more bacteria to break down that algae, right? So greater number of bacteria will use up the oxygen. Then there is not enough sunlight able to get to the bottom of the lakes or rivers or
So
whatever
there's gonna
because
be
the
less
algae.
oxygen levels, right?
Yes, less exactly. Eventually, the final cause is that there's very less oxygen inside the water and the organisms start to die. So that's finally when you get to that stage where the organisms are dying and there's no oxygen, that's known as eutrophication. So you have to explain the entire steps that the fertilizer comes, the number of algae increase, then the bacteria increase, then this happens, then the oxygen comes down, there's less light, so this happens. Like you have to explain how you get to the end where there is not enough oxygen in the river and the organisms are dying. That entire process is known as eutrophication.
Do I write it down?
If you can, that would be great. Or you can say it out verbally. Like if you've written down the answer, you can say it out verbally. I don't mind.
Oh, okay. So I think I just said the answer right. So like when
Yeah.
like sewage has an excessive amounts of nutrients, right? Like particularly nitrogen and phosphorus into the river, uh this nutrient causes rapid growth of algae. Okay, and when these algae die and decompose, right?
Yes.
Uh they use up oxygen in the water, and and the
Yeah,
algae also
decomposes.
like
Yes.
stops blocks the light from reaching
Yes.
to other plants
Hmm?
that are in the water
Yes, correct.
and decreasing the oxygen levels.
Yes. So just to slightly paraphrase your like just to not paraphrase, just correct, change the phrasing a bit. So when the algae are decomposed by the bacteria use up the oxygen. So basically what happens is that since the number of algae increase drastically, so obviously when the algae are going to die, there is going to be huge amounts of algae dying more than normal. Hence, bacteria are going to be doing a lot more decomposition. So they are going to obviously for decomposition, they have to respire, they have to use up oxygen. So the oxygen inside the water is going to start getting used up. At the same time, since the light is not able to reach the bottom of the river, so the plants cannot do photosynthesis. Plants cannot produce more oxygen. They cannot replace the oxygen being used up by the bacteria when they're decomposing the dead algae. So overall result of both of these things is because the algae are the bacteria are using up the oxygen and the plants are unable to photosynthesize and make more oxygen. So what happens that the amount of oxygen inside the river starts to decrease, and as a result the large initially smaller organisms and eventually larger. So basically what's going to happen is that think of it this way, that now, when the smaller organisms will die, that will again increase the activity of the decomposers. More and more oxygen will get used up. So eventually, even larger organisms will be affected by it, and that can lead to that overall is known as eutrophication. Okay, so that's the overall process that happens. Okay, perfect. Okay, hold on. I have another question. Give me 1 second. Let me open this for you. Okay, the question says the diagram shows a cycle that is important for recycling of biological molecules. Processes in the cycle are labeled A, B, C, and D. Give the name of this cycle.
Wait, is it the carbon cycle?
Correct, this is the carbon cycle. Which process reduces carbon dioxide in the atmosphere? A, B, C, or D?
A, because doesn't the plant take carbon dioxide?
Yes, plants taken. A is your
Photosynthesis,
photosynthesis.
right? But isn't A as respiration as well?
Look at the direction of the arrow. The direction
That
of the arrow is showing
okay,
you
yeah,
that
that
the
is.
yeah carbon dioxide is going towards the plant. If the arrow was the other way around, it would be respiration, and they have actually not added respiration. They should have. Name two microorganisms that carry out process B.
Oh, bacteria.
Yeah.
Wait, bacteria and wait, how many do I have to like name?
Two.
I don't know the other one.
You can say fungus,
Okay.
right? Yeah, that's it. The breakdown of dead plant matter by organism is affected by many factors. Design an investigation to determine the temperature at which the plant material is broken down most effectively. Include experimental details in your answer and write in full sentences. So now you know how you have to go about it. Either you can use the COMS method or independent variable, control variable.
Wait, so like what do you have to do?
You have to design an investigation to determine the temperature at which plant material is broken down most effectively. At which temperature is the plant material broken down the best? You have to do a proper investigation. So either you can design the investigation using the COMS method, right? Your independent variable, your organism, repeatability, measurement, and your variables that will remain the same, or you can use it the method I taught you, which is dependent variable, independent variable, control variable. Doesn't matter. Whichever method you prefer, use that method and design an experiment to determine if temperature has an effect on the breakdown of plant material.
Wait, so do I write it down or see?
If you can write it down, that would be great because then I can go through the formatting. Okay, Shwish, I got your Raj, I got your answer. One second, sorry. Mm, okay. And to separate identical containers, multiple temperature environments to create different temperature conditions. Okay. And for same period of time for all samples, and you compare the final mass of plant each container to the initial mass. All right. So you have mentioned the independent variable. Then you have mentioned the dependent variable that measure the change in mass, compare the final mass to the initial mass. Okay. Then you have given me the control variable. So control variable should include equal mass of the plant material. Agreed. Then same period of time. Okay. Just 1 point, 2 points that you can add. Point number one is you need also need to talk about the species of the bacteria or the species of the decomposers. You need to make sure that uh whatever um or like in the soil, you have to make sure that the type of decomposer is the same, right? Because different decomposers will break down plant materials in different ways. For example, if in one it's a fungus and in one there's small bacteria, so a fungus are usually larger, so they might be able to break it down faster. So you need to make sure that the type of decomposer in each situation is also the same. And also in your control variable, you can also mention same amount of oxygen, same pH, same water quality, same amount of water. All of these need to be kept the same as well. Other than that, I think your answer is fine. And you also missed the part regarding repeatability. Always remember to mention that repeat the experiment and take multiple readings. So you have to add repeatability, do add that. Do mention about the organism. At least those 2 points should be included. But other than that, your answer is fine. But you have to mention use the same amount of same type of organism as decomposers. And you have to mention that repeat the experiment and take multiple measurements. One second. Yeah, you would this would give you 4 out of 6. You have to mention repeatability, and you have to mention at least that use the same species of organisms. Whether you yeah, same species of decomposer should be present. Then I would like it if you added a bit more control variables. Like I told you, same humidity, same pH, same water, same oxygen. But if you don't add that, that would still be fine. But do add regarding the same species of organisms. That is very important, and it has to be repeated. Okay. Now let me open up another question for you. One second. All right. So if you remember, one of the first things when we did in human effects of human effects on the environment was we had talked about farming in agriculture. And we had gone over the various ways that farmers use to increase the growth of their crops, and we had discussed how some of those can negatively affect the environment. So, keeping uh, that in mind, question says farmers can increase their crop yields by growing in a temperature controlled glasshouse. Explain how increasing the temperature can result in an increase in the crop yield. You might dip into the topic of um, enzymes and photosynthesis to answer this. Like you can use your background knowledge related to enzymes and photosynthesis to try to answer this question. How is increasing the temperature going to result in an increase in the yield of the crop?
Wait, can you like explain me the question again?
Yeah, they're saying so what when you talk about farmers, right? So farmers try to increase the yield. Yield means amount, okay?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they obviously want to make more money. So they try to increase the amount of the crops they are growing by placing them in a temperature controlled glass house. So what the glass house does is that it allows them to control the temperature, like make it like so that it's warm enough. They're asking you, explain how increasing the temperature can result in an increase in the crop yield. Like, why do you think that if they make the temperature higher, it will lead to more crops growing, or the plants will grow better? The plants will grow more because crops are plants. Why will the plants grow better, or they will
Is
grow
it
more?
because the enzymes?
Yes, exactly. That's what I said. You can go back to the topic of enzymes and photosynthesis that you did and relate it to the answer.
To be honest, I don't know that.
Okay, that's fine. It's okay. I will, I'll tell you the answer, okay? Because I'm sure once you listen to it, you remember it a bit. If you remember, when you did the topic of enzymes, you must have studied that enzymes and every enzyme has an optimum temperature, right?
Yeah.
So enzymes in our body, for example, their optimum temperature is 37 degrees centigrade. So if the temperature is too low, and we would get a graph like this.
But that would the reaction would be too slow then, right?
Yes, exactly, exactly. And as you increase the temperature and you get close to the optimum temperature, the enzymes are going to be working the best. Then,
But how do
if
you
you
know what's the
go,
optimum temperature though?
for example, plants generally are found in, like outside. So the outside temperature. Now, this is again area dependent, right? Depending on where you live. So, if, for example, in your area, the crops the crops that naturally grow, that are naturally growing in your area, if they're growing at around 25 degrees centigrade, 30 degrees centigrade, whatever the outside temperature is, that is roughly the optimum temperature. Okay, like if the plants are growing outside in the hot weather, that is their optimum temperature. That is why the plants are growing in that particular temperature. So, now if the temperature gets way too high, like extremely high, the
They're
enzymes
gonna
will
get denatured, right?
exactly. So over
Okay.
here, when they're going to increase the temperature, if you remember, the kinetic theory of matter. What is even that's the logic behind how enzymes work. When the temperature is going to be high, the enzymes are going to have more kinetic energy. When they're going to have more kinetic energy, so there are going to be more collisions. And if there are going to be more collisions, so obviously the photosynthesis that is being done by the plants, or the chemical reactions being done by the plants, will be faster, and the plants are going to be able to grow better. That is basically it. That by increasing the temperature, we can get closer to the optimum temperature for the plants. And as a result, the enzymes will gain more kinetic energy, there will be more collisions. Hence, the chemical reactions will be faster, and the plants will grow faster as well. So you just have to relate this to enzymes. Okay. Now, next part of the question says farmers sometimes use a type of heater that burns gas or oil to raise the temperature of their glass house to improve crop yield. Explain why they use this type of heater to improve crop yield. Why are they using a gas or an oil heater to increase the temperature? If they want to increase the temperature in the glass house, they use a gas or an oil heater. Why not use maybe an electrical heater? What could be the possible advantage of using something like a gas or a oil heater in a glass house? In this question, you have to think out of the box. The answer is very simple. Once you get it, it's a very simple answer, but you have to just go a little bit out of your box and think.
Maybe because like uh there might be like so many heaters that the heat can be like evenly distributed.
You can do that with electrical heaters. I can put so many electrical heaters that they're also evenly distributed. Why specifically use a gas or an oil heater? I'll give you a hint. Think of it this way. What is the disadvantage with gas and oil? Like generally, environmentally, what is the problem with them? Burning gas and burning oil. Why is it normally considered bad?
It's like combustion produces like carbon dioxide.
Now, why would that be something good in a greenhouse where plants are?
Plants can use that carbon dioxide in the for photosynthesis.
Exactly. That is why. So, since the gases and oil heaters are going to be producing excessive carbon dioxide, more carbon dioxide mean that more photosynthesis will occur. So, the plants are going to grow better. Now, they're saying some farmers also add chemical fertilizers to their crops in a glass house. Different minerals are added to the chemical fertilizer. Explain one mineral that should be added to these fertilizers.
Nitrates.
Yes, good. And then if you're adding nitrate, then give the reason for nitrate. Why do we need nitrate?
Oh, isn't like nitrates used in the nitrogen cycle, right?
Yeah, but why do plants need nitrates? They needed to make something. They needed
Oh
to make
yeah,
a
they build proteins with that.
yes, exactly. They needed to make amino acids or proteins, right? So you have to, that's why they said explain. They didn't say state, they said explain. So when it says explain, then you have to give the name as well as the use of it. The other option that you had was magnesium. You could say magnesium is needed for making chlorophyll for chloroplast. Phosphate.
Wait, what
Phosphate
about
is
ammonia?
ammonia is nitrate, right?
Oh,
Ammonia,
ammonia. Okay, never
yeah,
mind.
ammonia and nitrate are the same thing. And uh, phosphate. Phosphate is needed for making your DNA, right? So you could have given any of this. Now, discuss why some farmers limit the amount of chemical fertilizers they add to the crops. So now you need to remember the disadvantages associated with chemical fertilizers.
So do I have to like tell about the disadvantages of the fertilizers?
Yes, think of the disadvantages of the fertilizer. It doesn't have to be five disadvantages, but like for example, one point, if you remember, we already discussed question, right? So you give that point and then you give like small explanation. Then think of another point and give like a small explanation. So you can just think of like 2 or 3 points only, but just like give the point and give like an explanation associated with it.
Okay. So like
You can also add any general knowledge that you have regarding how a chemical fertilizer can be bad.
Wait, so like fertilizers, right? Yeah. So fertilizers can lead to pollution problems.
Yes, it can, but be a bit more specific. There's one pollution that they do that's like that's a major problem.
Is it related to eutrophication? Because like fertilizers have lots of chemicals, right? And
Yes, yes,
if there are more, if you add like so much fertilizers, right,
yes.
then
Go
there will
on.
be more minerals, right? And then more minerals means like this can lead to like the more algae thing, and then
Yeah, yeah. Go on, go on. So, okay. So, first of all, how is the fertilizer going to get to the water? Because eutrophication happens in the water. So, what's that process? If you remember, I told you a terminology. What was that terminology? How is it going to actually get into the water?
yeah, I don't know.
Leaching. Remember, I told you leach. So when the fertilizers are leached, that's the word we use. The fertilizers will be leached from the soil into the rivers. That's step number one. And they will cause eutrophication, which will lead to algal bloom and eventually loss of aquatic life. So that would be 4 points. Okay, do you see how I took one topic and I made it 4 points? Because of leaching of the fertilizers from the soil, because they are putting them in the soil. How would it get all the way to the water? Through leaching. There it would cause eutrophication, leading to algal bloom and loss of aquatic life. Then, can you think of another way that it can possibly be harmful? Chemical fertilizers. The second one
Is it like
is you'll have to slightly think out of the box for it.
I think it's in the book.
Okay, think of it this way. If there is going to be a lot of fertilizer in the soil, okay, think about the plants. How do the plants absorb water? The plants absorb water by osmosis, right? Now, if there is a lot of fertilizer in the soil, what will happen to the water potential?
Is it gonna decrease?
Yes, the water potential inside the soil is going to decrease. So if there's less water potential in the soil, then the amount of osmosis will also decrease. So the plant will absorb less water, right? So you can discuss eutrophication and you can discuss this as well. You can say that um you can say that the high concentration of fertilizers will reduce the water potential of the soil. Hence, water will not be able to move into the plant via osmosis, or less water will move into the plant via osmosis, and the plant is going to wilt, or the plant is not going to get enough water. Then you can talk about eutrophication. And if towards the end you cannot think of anything at all, you can use the terminologies that maybe the farmers prefer to use natural fertilizer instead of chemical fertilizer. Maybe they want to produce organic food so they can earn more money because obviously, organic food is more costly. So you can add those as well, general knowledge statement. But the main answer is eutrophication and the change in water potential. Okay, hold on, give me a second. Let me share this other question with you. Hold on. All right, our question says lichens are organisms that grow well on stone walls in polluted air. Lichens grow less well in polluted air. Car exhaust fumes containing sulfur dioxide that pollutes air. A scientist investigates the effect of population by cars in a city. So basically, lichens are organisms that will grow very well if the air is clean. If the air is polluted, they will not be able to grow. So the car exhaust generally contains sulfur dioxide. The exhaust fumes that comes out of car, they generally have sulfur dioxide. Now, the scientist wants to find out if the pollution that is being caused by the cars, like he wants to investigate the effects, like what is the effect of the pollution, the sulfur dioxide that is being produced by the cars. This is her method. Measure the percentage area of a stone wall in a city center covered by lichen. So first she will find a wall that is covered in the lichen, and then she will measure the percentage area, that okay, from the total area of the wall, this percentage was covered with lichen. Repeat this measurement at different distances from the city center. So she'll go a bit far out of the city and then again find a wall and calculate or count the percentage of lichen present. Go a bit further away, count the number of lichen present. Now, the table shows a result. Over here, you have the distance from the city center. So when she's right in the middle of the city where the cars and all would be the greatest, there were no lichens present. When she was 12 kilometers away, that's like she's pretty out of the city now, around 70% of the walls were covered in lichen. Explain the results shown in the table. So just have to explain, not describe. They don't want you to describe, they want you to explain. Why are we seeing what we are seeing?
Hello, can you hear me?
Now I can hear you, Raj.
Oh yeah. Okay. So as the distance from the city centers, right, increases, right, the
Yes.
percentage area that is covered by the lichens increases.
Yes, correct.
I mean
So
that's what the table
give an
shows, right?
explanation. No, it says explanation. Yeah. So it doesn't say describe. Remember, I told you if it says describe, then what you said would be perfect. They're saying explain. So why is it? Why? Why is it that the further away we are getting, the amount of lichen are increasing?
Maybe because there are more stone walls
Mm-mm. Go back to what the initial paragraph stated.
or so unpolluted air, right? I
Yes.
think that increases.
Yes. Why does that increase when you go away from the city center? What will become less? The pollution will become less. Yes, but
Yeah,
how?
because the cars.
Yes. The further we are going to get from the city center, the less cars are going to be present. So there is going to be less air pollution, hence the percentage of lichens increase. Describe a method to measure the percentage of stone wall covered by the lichen. How can she calculate the percentage of stone wall covered by the lichen? You know the answer to this, by the way. Like it's a simple answer. It's a simple answer. Not easy calculations.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, you do know. I know you know this. How is she going to? Okay, if you were doing this, if I gave you a stone wall and I said, Viraj, can you please find out how much percentage of the stone wall is covered by the lichens? What would you have done? Percentage area, right? We have to find the percentage area. So how can I find the area?
But original minus the change.
No, no, you have a wall in front of you. How will you find area of the wall, for example? How can you find the area of the wall? The area, mathematically. Think of mathematics. How can you find the area of the wall? It's a rectangular wall or a square wall. How can you find the area of a wall? How can you find the total area of the wall? Like in mathematics. If in a mathematics question, they put a wall in front of you and they said, find the area of the wall, what would you do?
I use the formula L times B.
Yeah,
Or
side
if
into
it was
side
a rectangle.
or breadth into height. Yeah, whatever you want. So you can measure the height, you can measure the sides of the wall and use it to find the total area. Okay? You can use this to find the total area. Then you can find out the area occupied by the lichens. How much area is being occupied by the lichens? You measure that. You measure the area being occupied by the lichens and you measure the total area of the wall. Okay? For the area being used by the lichens, you can use a quadrant. You can use a quadrant to find out what is the area of the wall covered by the lichens. Then you can simply measure the sides and find out the total area. Now, to find percentage area, you will take the area covered by the lichens divided by total area multiplied by 100. That's it. That's your answer. Those are the 3 marks. Find the area covered by the lichens using the quadrant method. Find the total area of the wall by measuring the sides. Okay. And finally, use the formula the area covered by the lichens divided by the total area of the wall multiplied by 100. So that's how you will get the percentage area covered by the lichen. Making sense to how to answer the question?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, next they're saying to you is this. Adding water to a powder called sodium metabisulfite will release sulfur dioxide. Devise a laboratory investigation to find out the effect of sulfur dioxide gas on the heat released by the germinating seeds. You don't have to write it down. I know you can write it down fine. You can just say it out for me. So you have to make an investigation whether sulfur dioxide gas or what is the effect of sulfur dioxide gas on the heat released by germinating seeds. And how will you produce the sulfur dioxide gas? Like, where are you going to get sulfur dioxide gas from? You can get sulfur dioxide by adding this powder into water. If you add this powder into water, you will make sulfur dioxide gas. So you can add the powder to water, make sulfur dioxide gas. And how is the sulfur dioxide gas going to have an effect on the heat released by germinating seeds?
So like you know the seeds, right?
Yeah,
Are they like already germinated, or like do I have to germinate them?
they are in the no, they're not already germinated. They're in the process of germinating.
So I have to germinate them.
Yeah,
So like I have to put the seeds in water to like start the
yeah, yeah,
germination process, right?
yeah. Sure, you can put them in soil. I mean,
Okay,
even if you put
soil.
the seeds in, yeah, it's going to be the same thing.
Okay, so
Viraj, I have to start another class. So, if it's okay, can you please WhatsApp me the answer and I'll go over that with you.
okay. So I'll just take a screenshot.
Yeah, take a screenshot, please.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Okay, all right, Viraj. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next class. And now we're gonna start.